to the Planet Paintball podcast, brought to you by 1023 Sportswear and Southwest Paintball in Bayfield, Colorado. Go out and say hi to John and the boys. I got Julian with me from, a slew of teams, but we'll stick with the major one, I guess, right now is New Jersey Jesters. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. And yourself?
I'm loving it. Life is busy, which means life is good.
Yes, always.
So let's just get into it because there's so much. So how did you find paintball?
So I am not your typical birthday party story. My dad is Tommy Maliszewski of the All-American and Team Image fame, to steal a quote. And I, truly believe it's that way. My dad was the Michael Jordan of paintball. He started way back in the day with the Baltimore Rats. Him, his two brothers, Chris Cole, a few other guys ebb and flowed in and out of the program. And then he, was competing against the All-Americans, Billy and Adam Gardner, ultimately went over with them and had a lot of success. They had a lot of championships, world championships. And then he wanted to make his own way. And he started Team Image with Richie, his brother, his youngest brother. And they competed in the amateur division first. They stomped in the amateur division before they moved up to pro. And then eventually Greg joined as well. And then the trifecta of Mals were together, and they grabbed a contingency of players from all over the nation to have one of the best teams for better part of a decade, for sure.
And Dad's credited for inventing the run through, isn't he?
No, so that's going to be Richie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was, I forget the stats and when it happened. I think it was in Boston, one of the old NPPLs, and that's when it happened. The one thing that my dad gets accredited for is being able to deal with all of the different personalities that come with having a high-level team and be that organizer. When my dad would always joke about it, he would pick pockets of teams and then have those guys. So Image in their heyday, when they were the most feared, obviously there was the three brothers. And then there was a contingency of guys from the North Carolina down south region, Rob Stottinger, Lane Wright, LD Dickinson. I'm sure I'm forgetting someone as well. And then out of the Detroit Fusion area came Travis Lemansky, Posey, Brad Waterman, LB Fowl. Opie at that previous time had come, I believe, from California before he came towards Maryland and things like that. Opie's now one of Dave Thomas. He's one of the main guys over at GI right now. There's been a slew of people who have come through the Image camp that have gone on, been successful paintball players as well as industry leaders as well.
Yeah. It's really a all-star team without the all-star rep in some ways, like compared to when you look at like Avalanche, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that. I mean, it's funny because I'm 37, I'm going to be turning 38 in June, and I grew up watching Push and Sunday Drivers, the Trauma Head videos with Danny Manning, commentating my, childhood of, people doing run-throughs and things like that. So when people go back and see those videos, Image is always a team name that is always a threat. And, my dad had an introduction that will forever live with me the first time I saw it from Sunday Drivers. Truly, it's they're old school videos. And it's always funny when we talk to young kids and they're like, it's like, look, this is where the game came from.
Mm-hmm.
It's like common correlation with NBA and NFL. Like everyone's like, oh, these were the guys back then. Well, it's not the game now. Yeah, but those were the guys that paved the way to be where we are now. So,
yeah,
you can't knock where you came from.
Nope. And you got to celebrate it a little bit and understand what those guys did for the game.
Yes, agreed. Truly. I mean, and regardless, outside of my team, like there's a lot of leaders in the industry that are still present now. Billy and Adam Gardner, Smart Parts, DLX, Shocker Paintball, all the different iterations that were there. Ed Portman, so obviously was Warp Sports and Angel and things like that. There are these figureheads in the sport that were there to help drive the sport forward when it wasn't happening. So, we wouldn't be where if it weren't for those guys.
Yeah. So when growing up with Dad and then obviously all the uncles, I'm sure it was paintball from birth. But
Yes.
when did you
Paintball and hunt?
Yeah. When did you say, "Hey, I want to actually like play this"?
So I will say it's interesting. I mean, I started when I was 6. I was running around in our fields in Chase, Maryland in a old school JT motocross chest protector and a little mesh shirt. I mean, I've been playing so long. One of my first guns was an F4 Illustrator. This was a gun that it didn't have a barrel that screwed in. You literally inserted the barrel in just a metal tube, male to female end,
Mhm.
and there was a thumb screw that held it down. I mean, I was ripping apart Nell spots and PGPs as a young kid and playing with 12 grams and 10 pod tubes. So I've been around from when it was in the woods, when airball started, when 7-man started, when X-ball started, and then I left at a certain point. We'll get to that. Pursued a different career at that phase of my life, but yeah, I was not a birthday party kid. One of my first memories of playing at our old chase field was the old school. Now they call them dad hats. That's just how the hats were with the metal clip.
Mhm.
Was rocked backwards and sideways, and I remember getting bunkered in the 50 as a young kid going against some team and literally got knocked out, and I like come to as the guy's like running my lifeless body to my dad like, I'm sorry, like what happened, and, but it's just that's how you are as a kid, like, hey, you're gonna go to that bunker all the way over there and make it happen. um yeah, it definitely was a interesting turn of events for sure.
So when did it go from running around with everyone to how soon did you start playing tournaments?
So we used to have a 3 and 5-man series, our local field. So it's now defunct. We had fields and stores in the Maryland area for about 30 years. What is now the Ravens training facility was my dad's first paintball field.
Nice.
And then that was obviously an all wooded area. So when they got moved out, we found our Chase location, which is around the Bullies quarters, like right around like one of the little pockets there by the water. We were there for such a long time, and then we found our other location, which we recently closed, coming up on a year this April, which was Route 40 Paintball Park. We were there from mid 90s all the way until 2025.
Uh-huh.
And I had played, well, we had hooked up with East Coast Extreme and one other field. We had a little mini series within then. And then ultimately, my first event was 5-man Atlantic City, I think 2002,
Okay.
which was the old racetrack. And that was a awesome experience doing that. And I played for a few years after that, but then I left the game when I hit college right around 2007, 2008. I played the last true NPPL 7-man in San Diego and was there right outside Charger Stadium or whatever it was called at that point. And when the X Ball was starting to come out, it wasn't really for me. I felt as though I built myself to a certain player, kind of being sneaky in 7-man and stuff like that. So to get, run down by a 14-year-old kid that has no idea what's going on, and he's just having a guy
Mhm.
telling him what to do on the sidelines, like, go now, peek here. It's like, stop it. No, like, it's not. So I didn't fall in love with the game at that point in time. Um, I was in college and I decided to leave the game and go run a ski club for 2 years.
Okay.
And then I was hecked out in the Pennsylvania mountains and just enjoying time and getting paid to go snowboard. And then I played semi-pro and professional indoor lacrosse for about 5 years at that point. I was a top 20 member of Team USA for 2010 and 2014.
Dang.
And then, yeah, I have to, I know I'm kind of jumping all over. We kind of circle back in the meat here in a second. One thing I got from my dad growing up was the ability to travel and be good at a sport and to commit to it. I really have to give my dad a lot of credit for that. And without the support of them, I wasn't able to do what I was.
Mhm.
And yeah, I literally built a career off of being one of the best face-off guys in the world and pretty decent fighter in the game, similar to what you would see for hockey and things like that. This nose is not square. They go completely flat,
Taking a
for better
couple
or for
across it,
worse.
huh?
Yeah, I mean, just the same way you see like a hockey enforcer is the same role that I carried for a few years.
Mhm.
And I loved it. I was able to travel the world and be with a group of studs that, I had a role, but there were people way better than me at their position in their job. And I just got to be a complement to that. And that was an amazing experience. Took me, like I said, all over the world. I went to Russia, I went to Prague, all just for playing lacrosse. And when I finally settled down, lacrosse in my area was starting to go further and further away. And then paintball was there. And then that's where I got in with Ground Zero Gold.
Okay.
And give a shout out to Will Arroyo and that whole GZ organization. They really helped me get back into the swing of things. When I did play a few events with Image before then. Image then wasn't the Image that they are now.
Mm-hmm.
It was still a lot of the guys that were from that Pro-Am 10-man Image era. And, those guys as well were figuring out where they were in this sport at that point in time. And that's when I had left, played with Will. Will was one of the guys growing up that I idolized. I liked how his boisterousness, that New York attitude. When people think of Ground Zero, that's what drew me to it. My first email address when I was a little kid having a Yahoo account was julianrocks@yahoo.com. I wasn't that hard of a Will fanboy, but it was just that cool to have that full circle experience. He has become one of my best friends. It's how it goes. You got those lifelong friends where it's that ebb and flow, and just super fortunate to be a part of that for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
So circle back, like right before you left, who were you playing with?
So at that point in time, it was the DC Monstars.
Okay.
And that had been an evolution of teams. One of the teams I'm currently affiliated with is the Eastside Bandits. And one of the main figureheads with the DC Monstars was this gentleman, Ramon Holmes. And he has been in that Southern Maryland, Virginia area paintball scene for years. And one of a guy that is no longer involved with the program, his name was Teddy Galaboski, and he played out of our field and took a lot of the younger guys and brought them under his umbrella, gave them a good home, and helped those guys achieve whatever they were looking for. And a lot of those guys went on to be Annapolis Assault in the beginning when that whole D1 and everything like that was going on. And those guys became, a few of them that did truly stick around were one of the first iterations of Baltimore Revo as well.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Then coming back through Ground Zero, which was like for a long time a kind of powerhouse in the ICPL-esque.
Yes.
Almost before ICPL was a thing, when they were still like more independent events, right?
Yep. Yeah. Before they kind of brought it under the umbrella. Will is really good about being a great bringer of minds, and he has that attitude, and it's just so infectious that you want to be a part of it. And just, like, we're gonna get him, and just I was trying to like censor myself when I say it, but it's just that, like, it's that smash mouth, and I really drew connotations with it with Image, because you'll always hear when they talk about Team Image, like, it's just 10 dudes trying to run at you. And if you can survive the volume right within the first 3 minutes, you'll probably have a chance to win. And it's the same thing with GZ. It's like, well, what are we going to do? We're going to run at them. And then when we're going to stop, we're going to stop, and we're going. It's just foot on the throat, shoot them in the neck, like onwards and forwards.
Nice. So kind of take us through the comeback tour, if you will. I mean, ICPL makes sense, right? Given your legacy. And did you stay with them for so long? I know you were on Smoke for a hot minute too.
Yep. Yeah. I definitely have maybe a connotation of being a team hopper a little bit. I was with GZ basically until the wheels fell off. Nothing really bad to say, but at a certain point in time, if you got a 5-6 year span, once you've won enough, it's either going to move on or everyone's going to kind of get picked apart.
Yeah.
And that's basically kind of what happened with GZ. Along the way, I started dabbling a little bit more with the X-Ball realm. There's a now defunct team that comes back every once in a while called Annapolis A-Team. And I first got my foray back into X-Ball playing with the sister team, which was known as the B team. As we like to dub us as. That was a great experience. I played with a lot of awesome players, and two that were just going to stick around to my mind. Justin Kim, who has had a few different stints well, he had a stint with Houston Heat, I believe during World Cup, which was an awesome thing to, be there as a guy that he was a ref for me to go through all these different things and then see him wearing that jersey was awesome. So to be there with someone like him, one of my other good friends, Bill Raber, he was the guy that originally brought me in. So I started with the B team there. And then I was in this flux of trying to find a home, and we actually played a CFOA. And there was a guy that is now no longer with the Jesters. I'm not going to give him any credit because he doesn't put his name out there. But I happened to come to the Jesters using him as a vehicle,
Okay.
and not like driving, but I was like, I knew he was affiliated with the Jesters, and I was like, oh, if you guys can do a little mix around, I want to jump in. And so I started showing around, became a hang around, and they asked me to join the team. Started on the D3 team. I was afforded an opportunity to go up to the semi-pro level. Hindsight being 2020, I thought I was better than what I was, and I wasn't. And I have learned a lot in my years and having to reflect back. And being with the Jesters has helped me be the player and person I am today, for better or for worse.
Nice.
So I've been with those guys as an X-Ball team. I'm coming up on 5 years now, I believe. And we're coming into our 30th year as an organization as well, which is, such a storied team at that facet. And then after GZ fell apart, I was looking for a team, looking for something, and I actually joined the All-Americans this past year for 2025.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. I really have to give a shout out to all those dudes on that team. A few in particular, Spesh is an amazing dude and was a great friend and captain and things like that. There's many of those OGs that are captains, so I'm just going to throw that out there. Frank Connell's another guy. He's the man. Congratulations to him. He just got the Hormesis Hall of Fame Icon Award as well. He has been such a great sounding board for me, both as a person and as a player. And I've really enjoyed, the conversations that I've been able to have with him. A few of the other guys on the team, Riley Sullivan needs no introduction. Bryce Rhodes needs no introduction. I had a chance to play with and be a teammate with so many great players that in this past year, a lot of these guys have become friends. One of my other good friends and confidants is Dave Weiss Cook. Had the fortune opportunity, again, All-American, Nick Shows, Aaron Rios, like just studs.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the opportunity to be with those guys, and that was just awesome and super thankful for all the times to do it. And then, we did pretty well in Maryland. I just missed out on the top 4. We took 3rd place in Pittsburgh. It was a great event. Sucked to lose to Aftershock the way we did. I've had a great fray with them in the beginning and playing NXL 10-mans. Super thankful to have Todd and Tammy Adamson as friends in my back corner. I know we'll get to that later. Being able to play with them with Extreme Rage when then it became Aftershock. I was able to play with more people that played with my parents and things like that. It was a really awesome kind of homecoming to be with those 2 teams, and just super thankful for the opportunity. And then we weren't playing the final event in 2025 as the All-American. So I reached out and I made sure it was okay for me to go play with Team Smoke. I built a great relationship with Paul Desarn and Danny Manning, and I jumped in, and, we were fortunate enough to win the final event. And that is something special when I've won a lot of 10-man events. I've won a lot of 5-man events, but to win an event on the field when it's happening is something that I'm always going to remember, especially from that experience and that event. It's one thing to compete. It's one thing to compete against people that are great. And, there's some people that will speak highly of me. There's some people that will not speak highly of me. But that is a day that, it will never be taken from us.
Mm-hmm.
And we always get to have those emotions. And shout out to Blue Sports. He caught a moment that it was interesting because I was playing with a guy that I've now become friends with. His name's Luke Staley. He's just a stud. Everyone already knows who he is when you know him. And he caught a moment of like us winning, and, it's achieving things as friends and teammates. And when you actually have that win, it was awesome.
Nice.
It's a moment that, will stay with me because you don't get many of those.
Hmm.
And when you have a bad day, you have to remember the good ones, get through them. Not saying that like, oh, I got all these bad days, but when you're like, oh, like I'm doing all this stuff, like why am I grinding? Why like here's why I'm grinding.
Yeah.
To have memories like this, to be the guy that's in the Sunday club, to move on, to move forward. And there's many people that will play events and they will only play those 8 games or those 4 games, and then that's it.
Hmm.
And I've been fortunate enough to be with teams on and off the field that have gone further than that. And that's always going to be something that I have, and no one can ever take that away.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you put in the work. I don't think a day goes by that I don't see you in your backyard in the hyperball field doing drills and stuff.
Yeah, I appreciate. I have lived about 4 or 5 different lifetimes within this short span of my 37 years. Where I'm at now is I'm able to take care of my daughter, basically being the stay-at-home dad, trying to work out when I can, eat well. My parents have a farm, so help them on that. And when I'm not doing that, I'm drilling and playing paintball. I'm fortunate to have the life I do right now. Yeah, truly.
So what's the 2026 season look like for you?
Gotcha. Busy. So the 2026 season is I'm playing for the New Jersey Jesters. We're playing in the semi-pro league, and we're also in the 3-man pro division right now. We had the awesome opportunity to play inside the stadium and experience all of that in Tampa, and that was awesome. And then I'm playing 10-man ICPL for Team Smoke.
Okay.
And then I'm playing 5-man ICPL with Aerosol Factory, which is also part of the Carbon family as
Yeah.
well.
Nice. Well, that'll be a full year for you then.
Yes. Yeah, I'm super fortunate. No, it just I love playing paintball. It's the same way when I was playing lacrosse.
Hmm.
I don't know how to dip my toe in. I just know how to dive in on the shallow end. I just I enjoy doing this, especially in playing ICPLs. It sucks to not play the 5-man beforehand because I feel as though when you do play the 5-man, you're getting such a better sense of the field.
Hmm.
And whether you win or lose, you're normally playing the 5-man to lead into the 10-man.
Yeah.
So you know exactly where things are going to be coming from, where the better side of the field is, and then where you can plug and play 5 other dudes around it. So it's a great information gatherer as well as, who doesn't love winning?
Yeah.
So to have the opportunity to be a part of a team that's already successful and just hopefully be a plus to them is great.
Hmm.
Whether I play a game or not in 5-man stuff like that, and coming to a story team, an already established team, just to be around a group of winning dudes, you're going to pick up on something that you don't already know.
Yeah.
I've become successful, but I'm also an idiot. So, I'm always going to be learning from someone,
Hmm.
to think that you have something better than someone else is just short-sighted.
So are you going out to the West Coast event?
Yep. Yeah. So I'll be out there, fly out Thursday morning, and then gonna hang around, do the Cali thing on Thursday, and then rock and roll Friday, and then for 5-man, and then 10-man Saturday and Sunday. So it'll be a long, good, fun weekend, but it's a business trip,
Hmm.
truly.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I've traveled all over. I mean, I've been to California a bunch, and paintball is fun, but ultimately, and it's a business trip.
Hmm.
When you're taking this time away from your family and things like that, like you can have fun. But if I were to show up to an event and I have the opportunity to be with a team that I hadn't been before, and I show up and just sloppy and just not how you should be and not carrying yourself with the pedigree, then what good are you doing?
Yeah.
You know. So it's being appropriate, being professional, something that takes time to learn. But thankful for every opportunity I do get now.
So we'll step back a little bit to the 3-man. How did that opportunity come about for the Jesters?
So the ins and outs, I don't exactly have all of that within the team. Obviously, I'm a player, but I help run the social media
Hmm.
account. We have a great trifecta figurehead group: head coach, OG, Timmy Trenacost, Jake Snyder, and then Alan Tate. Those three guys are the ones steering the ship, and they're steering it in a great way. So that would be a conversation for one of those guys later in the day. I know that we have been trying to punch up to the top of the league for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
We also have been around for quite some time. And the team where it is now in this year is not the same team that it has been in previous years. This team now, to come from an international view, is really like a true sports team. We have coaches, we have managers, we have international players, we have a set schedule. We get together at a certain time, and everything is planned. And the organization that those three are bringing to the whole group is leading us in the direction that we are going now. And from practice, the way that we are preparing for practice, the way that we are operating at practice, our constructive team meetings afterwards, I mean, everything is building and moving forward to what we have going on right now. So I would only have to just kind of allude to that is all of the things that we're putting in place are showing that we are and we have the caliber to be a pro team and a successful team. And I think that this is a nice step in the right direction. I mean, let alone just to have that 3-man experience in Tampa.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that everyone has kind of talked about it, and we've all seen the pictures and the walkouts, but I mean, it's amazing, from playing 7-man events, from being outside, the stadium and looking at it and being like, I played an MPPL event at Mile High Stadium. We weren't in the stadium, and there wasn't even padding under the turf. They literally rolled the turf
Just
and
rolled
went to
it
the
out.
captain's meeting. Literally rolled it out over the parking lot. It was just like flat strip of turf. Bloop. They rolled it out. They're like, look, guys, and we're like, this is turf on top of pavement. And they're like, we'll let you do double knee pads and double elbow pads. And you're like, wait, are you sure? And they're like, yeah. So everyone has like the one size that they're wearing, and then you go an extra 4X and throw it over top, and everyone's running around like a Michelin man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's been gnarly. I've been through the, crazy paintball heydays, but where we are now as a team is just amazing. And like I was alluding to go in and look around a stadium in which you have Super Bowl champions being on the same field, and then we're going to play paintball. It was just, I can't find the right words to use. And, I got the little wristband to, keep that memory, but just to be able to do that is just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
It's awesome. So how the team feel about event one?
I'm sorry, say one more time.
How did the Jesters feel about event one, Tampa?
So we fell short to our expectations. We hold ourselves to a high level, and we know that we have to come back to the drawing board. Not saying it in a bad way. It's not like the wheels fell off or anything like that, but events are interesting. There's a lot of things that go into an event, and there's also factors that come out of your control. Mitigating the storm that you can't control is different.
Mm-hmm.
And, we fell a little short on that, but we are so determined to be successful that we will be. And everyone on the program, from players to coaches and management, we all want to see each other succeed as well as the team succeed. So it's one of those things where we don't have to talk about what we're going to go back home and do, because when you're on a team of this caliber, if you're not putting in the extra work, then you're not here.
Mm-hmm.
Simple as that. No one's here resting on their laurels, and it's an interesting team in that, we're all fighting, this is an aspect that isn't seen in paintball, but it's seen in other sports. So when you have not two different lines in terms of A and B and things like that, people get held up on numbers, and, whether it's letters A, B, 1, 2, stuff like that. If where the management has built a team now, we have 11 players. And if we don't have enough, if there's not a good team to practice, we can practice ourselves and give ourselves a better practice than playing some scrub team, because we all know what it takes to do it. And we've been very fortunate prior to Tampa to build a lot of great relationships with a lot of pro teams and high level semi-pro teams. And we've had the opportunity to be a part of a lot of these high level practices. You know, John and Henry at NR Paintball have been huge facilitators for this. Coach Jansen has given us the opportunity to compete against Houston Heat. We've also played against, we have a great relationship with Harris and NYX, the guys over at Wrecking Crew. Obviously, Nasty Semi Pro is there out of NR. We've had a few different spins against the Ironman, thanks to Henry and those guys. We are going to give a team a great practice, and we're going to learn, and we're going to help everyone else learn too. There's a way that we play paintball that is old school, and it's mean, and it's nasty, and if you don't like us, we don't care. We're still going to shoot you. We're going to shoot you in the neck and shoot you in the throat, and just enjoy every bit while we do it. It's just you have to be smash mouth in this game. You have to.
That's what I love about the Jesters, though. Like, as much as I've seen the team evolve, especially last year, they've also stayed true to themselves.
Yeah. I had a shirt that I was going to wear, so I decided to wear the Conquer shirt instead. But we have a nice little connotation that we've been using here for the past maybe like almost a year now. You'll see it in some of our hashtags I'll put out. It's, I could say it, but you know.
We'll let people use their imagination.
Yeah, it doesn't take much to think about it, because if you hear some of our chants, we let you know. So, yeah, that's just that. It's a real. It's a. I won't say brotherhood and sounding like in that way, but if you're not us, nah.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Well, you know, it's a long season, so
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
mean,
worried about you guys. I'm still looking for you to be top 4.
Yeah, and the thing is, you know what? You get punched in the mouth once, it's great. Keeps everyone level. You know, if you win right off the bat, you do really well off the bat, and you know that what you've been doing is getting you to a certain point, and there are always things to be worked on. We just have a bigger list of things to be worked on. But again, between the team, the management, the individual players, I truly believe that everyone's working on their craft.
And you definitely, like, I'll wake up and get a notification about you working out, and then I'll get a notification about you drilling, like almost every day. So you're definitely putting in the work.
Thank you. Yeah, I grew up in a gym, and just from playing lacrosse and everything like that, just living a gym life is fun. I used to do CrossFit with the wife for a bunch of years, and then I just started accruing equipment. So I literally have a entire gym inside my garage, which I'm sure you've seen. And I will say, from streaming and doing all these things now, that, you know, Instagram was really harsh on whatever else was being played in the background, and Facebook was a little bit easier going of things. And then today, like when I go drill in my field, I'll put a paintball video on in the background, and even the background music and stuff like that, now like the videos are getting cut short, and they're like, well, you can't do this, it's just rights. And I'm like, that's why I like TikTok, because I literally will work out and watch Formula One on Netflix and no interruptions. So whatever TikTok's got going on, I love it, because after I got kicked off of Facebook and Instagram while drilling today, I was like, we're just going to go to TikTok.
Just go to TikTok.
Just rock and roll with it.
So, so where can people find you on all the platforms?
Gotcha. So, I mean, everything is Julian the Whale. Julian the Whale.
Okay.
There's no fun story behind the moniker. It's really funny when I get to go play online. I'm playing Marathon a bunch right now, and everyone's like, "Oh, Julian the Whale," and I'm like, there's no good story. I literally was in college, and I was trying to figure something out, and I don't know. I said something like "cry like a baby whale," and I was like, Julian the Whale. There we go, because whales can't cry. Like, you're in water. I don't know. So Julian the Whale, and yeah, that's been everything that way. Obviously, I also run the social media account for New Jersey Jesters. So you can find us on all the platforms, all spelled out, New Jersey Jesters. And then I recently, within the past month, started my own business now. So all of that is T2F coaching, which I know we'll get to at some point too.
Well, let's jump into it. Like, how did that come about?
Gotcha. So I have been a lacrosse coach for over a decade, and I've gone through different therapy routes, and Yeah, ultimately in the end, I was trying to find something else to do, some way to kind of have a better connection. And a few years ago, I was working with Ali Lang, and I probably spent a year working with him. And, it's that bit of trying to find yourself and find a purpose, things like that. I've done a myriad of jobs in my life. I started out being a teacher. I grew up watching Dead Poet Society and things like that. So always I had a Mr. Keating in my life, and I wanted to be that person for someone else. So I had the opportunity to do that. I was a double major in philosophy and religious studies, not religious by any means. I had to write two different theses, exploring those different avenues. For philosophy, I was using Descartes' Meditations and the movie Donnie Darko.
Okay.
And then I was using this guy, Soren Kierkegaard, and his story about Abraham and correlating that with the Matrix. So I can tell you why the only thing that exists right now is your brain. And then other than that, everything else is deceiving. But, in the end, it is what it is. Um, Started there, I taught at my old high school, and then I went on to coaching. That's when I was also playing lacrosse and going in that route. And then I spent up until this recent endeavor. I spent the past 5, 6 years working in the cannabis industry.
Okay.
I was a sales rep for a CBD company for a few years, and then I worked for Green Thumb Industries for the 2.5 years up until now.
Nice.
So it's been an interesting endeavor, but I am now working as they like to use the word therapist. I use the word coach um, for Paintball for Purpose.
Okay.
And at that point in time, is also sprung into T2F coaching. So that's where, Tammy Abson really comes into play. Todd and Tammy started this foundation. Originally, Paintball for Purpose was to get veterans in connect with the services that they needed. And then they have been growing the foundation since then. And I have the fortunate opportunity to be a part of that. And what I'm doing right now is I'm seeking further accreditation, because basically what you could see it on paper, even though I say it's a personal development coach.
Hmm.
It's in essence kind of like a life coach in essence, but I don't like the word life coach because I think of Joan Rivers smoking Virginia Slims, and that's not me. It's just really kind of being a sounding board. The way I say it in my matchstick approach is I'm here to help people get over their mental hurdles and then also be a sounding board. Because a lot of times people, I do it to my wife. You can only say so many things to the same person for so long, and then you feel as though you're becoming a damper on them.
Yeah.
And that's where, someone like me can be in that place. You're having a bad day, you're having a rough day, and you just need to vent. You just need to let all the shit out. I'm your guy. And ultimately, in the end, I'm a talker. So we're not going to sit here and I'm going to say, oh, well, you should do this, you should do that. Okay, well, I appreciate you put a lot out there.
Hmm.
We just talked about X, Y, and Z real fast. So in this time, which one is the one that you want to focus on right now? And then if we pick a topic or one or two, then it's as you're talking about it, like, how does it make you feel? I mean, ultimately, in the end, you're the person that is going to find your own answers, because I have all my own experiences, my life
Hmm.
experiences. So if you give me a topic and then I chime in, you're hearing what I'm saying based off of my life and my experiences. And it's not you. I'm not here to make your thoughts mine. Your thoughts are yours. So let's just talk about you and your thoughts. And it's an interesting experience. I am one of the few therapists there within Paintball for a Purpose. Phil is another awesome guy coming out of the Southern Midwest area. He has a huge plethora of experience, and I don't want to shortcut it and trying to just, truncated, but
Hmm.
he's a great person when you have the ability to see him at the booth. Allie is another person who helps run Damage Dolls, and she's another great resource. And it's just constantly building. We just added Josh Silverman as well as Mr. Lovejoy and another lady freebie that I can't remember her name right off the top of my head.
Nice.
But the organization itself, I'm so fortunate to be a part of and thankful to be a part of it as well, because it gives me another aspect in going to an event. I'm there for Tampa, for instance.
Hmm.
My job was to be there for New Jersey Jesters. And thankfully, Todd and Tammy were super understanding of that. And I said, any free time, I'm going to be there.
Okay.
And to help be there at the booth for the short time I was, for some of the people to come up and say some of the things that they did, it really left me with a great experience. I was so fortunate to, be there and just to use that as a springboard and moving forward, not just even for my own business, but just to be a part of what Paintball for Purpose is doing,
Hmm.
truly.
So, and they've been on a couple of different shows and talked about it, but can you kind of run through what Paintball for a Purpose in that tends for at events?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we are offering is just a safe space and a place to vent if you need to talk with someone, if you're looking for a resource for a need that you may have. We have a network of people, even though they are not all there. If you talk with one of us, we will put you in touch with someone and give you the manner to find what you're looking for,
Okay.
whether it's help, advice, something. Like, we have avenues in, I don't want to speak for them, but, whether it's in Maryland or Arkansas or Montana, I know that's where three of our main people are, but we also have connections everywhere. If someone's in need, we will put someone with a resource for.
Nice. Well,
Yeah.
a long time coming, probably for our sport, right? I can't tell you how many times
Yeah.
I've gone to events and someone on the team has something going on, right? Whether it's a business they're worried about, or they just had a fight with the significant other, or, a parent just passed away. So I think it's awesome that you guys are there to give people, like you said, a sounding board for a little bit and connect them with other resources for when they get home too.
Thank you. And the thing too is, it's not just an information table. So if someone needs some time to talk, one of us will immediately go and go with you and be there for you.
Hmm.
We're not just like, we're not selling anything.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's, some merch and stuff like that, but I'm not sitting there. Like, obviously I've got my own private practice now, but I'm not sitting here like, hey, you want to come talk? Well, it's going to be No, no, we're going to go talk. Like, whatever you need, like, that's what we're there for. Whether it's 5 minutes, whether it's 10 minutes, 20 minutes, if you need to talk, that's what we're there for. And we're all for it. Now, if you would just come up and say, hey, I'm coming up on, this many days, this many years, which has happened.
Hmm.
And that's awesome when you just have someone come by and say, hey, love what you like. There was a guy who goes, I love what this is about. I'm 13 years, next week.
Hmm.
And that was at Tampa. No, the guy said 9 years. Like, there are things that, people just want to just put out there, and they want to put it to someone that is going to receive it in a great way. And, I remember talking with one of my teammates and just saying how I didn't realize what I was walking into, not in a bad way, but to have people kind of put that love out there and then, to jump and receive it. It's amazing. And I'm just thankful that I decided to do this.
And you guys have like private rooms behind the booth, like for more
Yes.
in-depth conversations, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, if someone wanted to come up and, speak with me, for instance, we will go and we'll be in a private space. We're not going to talk around a bunch of other people and things like that. We want anyone that needs a place to speak to feel as though that it's going to be a nice private place, and then they can convey whatever they need to as well.
So to go back to paintball a little bit, because you had mentioned like X-ball wasn't for you when you got out, right? And going into college, what pulled you to this iteration of X-ball? Because it's very different from what it started out as.
Yes. So I think in the end, the expo I came back to was not to give it a comparison, but it's an aggressive 7-man with two less players.
Okay.
You're not having coaches on the side. The one thing that is interesting about X ball is the ability to have this back and forth within a game. The coach wants to throw out a play. It may work, it may not, but it's the five of you guys locked in. You're not having any help from the sidelines or anything like that. It's just everyone that's right there. And that's one thing I like about this version of X-Ball compared to the very first iteration of X-Ball. As much as you can have, crowd
Hmm.
participation and things like that in the previous years, it's nice to be able to try to make a move and sneak through, whether you just go murk two or three dudes, and then it's not some guy going, "Hey, Johnny, he's there." Like, thanks. Thanks. I just made all this effort to go here, and then, some dad's like, "He's coming." Stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't miss coaching at all.
Yeah. Especially, it's like coaching, then you got counter coaching. It's like we're doing so much outside of the guys shooting the gun that
Hmm.
it's just like, stop it. Like, it's not fun anymore.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's a way, especially when you look at like the professional field, right? That you scoot them a little further back, limit what people can say, but like the crowd can still cheer and stuff. Like you see that all the time at World Cup in the
Yes.
finals, right? Like
Yes.
the crowd gets excited and that's fine, but that's very different than holding up the big numbers with the kill count on it, right?
Yes. Yeah, and there is that aspect, and I know that there are some things that the NXL has done to make the rules go faster. Like, I know they've tried different things where when everyone is eliminated from the other side, they're going to give it a brief few minutes
Hmm.
or a minute or so, then they're going to kill it. That was one thing. I know there were different rules with the 3-man, but they're trying to have the pace of play.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that we really need to work on. That was a really great aspect to, participate with as well.
Nice. So what's the favorite format?
I have to think about that. Excuse me, can you pardon me one
Yeah,
second?
yeah.
All right, I apologize. One
Yeah,
second.
you're good. All right. So we were on a favorite format because you play a bunch.
Favorite form. Yep. So, truly, I did love 7-man at the heyday. I think that 7-man was one of the better formats in this aspect of one and done of the 7-man is a little rough. If there was maybe I don't know, maybe like a 7-man with some kind of X ball iteration of a few different points. Let me feel you get a bad break. The one thing that, 5-man is a very individual game as soon as really off the bat, but when you lose a person or two, it becomes that way. There's a lot of teamwork and things like that. But I think 7-man was my favorite one.
Okay.
You figure if you shoot one or two guys off of side currently in X ball, you're smashing down the side, the point's over.
Yeah.
But if you lost two guys off the break, it's still 5-on-7.
Hmm.
You still can lock up fields and things like that. And I think that I had the opportunity to play against a lot of really good 7-man teams. So, for me, I'll be a little biased and say 7-man. But, I have had a lot of fun with X Ball. I've enjoyed the game like mentality of it.
Hmm.
However, the one thing that kind of sucks is the mercy rules.
Yeah.
Back in the day, if you were a bad team, you were
You just
stuck
got
in for
smashed for
30 minutes or 50 minutes of just getting smashed. And that could be, it sucks if you're on the receiving end of it, but it's fun when you just get smash people for an hour straight.
yeah.
I think that within the events and things like that, there's so many different teams and organizations. There was so much infighting that happened,
Hmm.
and I got to be around for a lot of it. When the PSP, left 10-man and then they were like, well, we're going to do X ball, but then teams didn't want to jump to X ball. So they kept 10-man around for like another year or two and had this pro-am thing while
Yeah.
really doing X ball and not caring about 10-man. So I was a part of that. And then I also got to see, Super 7 in their heyday.
Hmm.
I didn't play US XPLs or whatever the different iterations were at that point in time, but I think there was really nothing like a really good 7-man game. When you had really two good competing teams, I think it was great.
Yeah.
You kind of get that same thing, but it's not the same with X Ball. But, it's the game we play now, so I don't really think too much that far down the rabbit hole with it anymore.
Okay. Fair enough. I agree with you. Like I like the flow of 7-man more. And I think the old Super 7 like videos translate well to YouTube and stuff. 7-man like, best of 5 is like the ideal world for me.
Yeah.
Give you enough points where bad breakout doesn't kill it.
Yeah. Or even like how they used to do like best of 3. If
Hmm.
you like, once you got into those later rounds, like, this was the one thing that was cool about 7-man, and it's not the same with X ball, is that people don't know what it's like to have to walk 5 or more fields.
Yeah.
Like, you literally had to show up 2 days ahead of time. One was the fly-in day, and then your next day was you were living at the field, walking all the fields.
Hmm.
And it's not like what it is now, like, oh, does the layout, okay, well, this one isn't the same spot. This one's over here. No, like you literally had to come up with game plans and you knew who you were playing. And I remember in Denver, here we were it was called tension, where then we played D2. And
Hmm.
as soon as everyone knew that my dad was there coaching us, all the teams that we played had game plans for when they played us because we were going to play a certain way. And I remember playing Aftershock and we played them maybe on the Angel Field or something like that. And we're like,
Hmm.
we're going to come at them and we're going to do X, Y, and Z. They literally sat in the back because they
Hmm.
knew how we were going to play and they just waited for us to run into their guns. And then they came right at us. You don't get to have those experiences. You're just
Hmm.
going against 5 dudes with guns and a coach that thinks he has a good game plan. And if it works, it works. If something doesn't stick, all right, here's a pivot, pivot, pivot. All right, well, it's now 3-0. And if we don't have a good pivot, we're out. Then you're done in 20 minutes. And that's a game. That's
Yeah.
like,
So I got asked by Andy Taco Shop financing available question. What's the unicorn gun, or maybe in your case, one you let go that you wish you had it?
so actually, they're within a quick grab. Let's a step away here. I got 3 that are my unicorns as of right now. So the very first one is sitting here will
Ooh,
be this one.
ooh.
So this is, and I'll get a little closer here. So this is so they did 10 or 12 of these image guns when they first came out by Jenny.
Hmm.
You can see the team image logo there. And then everyone's kind of seen this body cut that PBC put out a few years prior to it. But when you found an image gun is when it has the shock tech
Shock tech and
engraved
the free
there.
flow. Yeah.
Yeah. So this was the original. My next gun, I got to give a shout. And I think that actually used to be Rob Stodinger's gun when he sent it to my dad. The next one, when I was part of Ground Zero Gold, my buddy Will Royal got me in good graces with James Graley from Adrenaline.
Nice.
And so we've got the Julian the Whale edition, um, Adrenaline, TM40. Well, it was just called the Adrenaline Lux at that point in time.
Hmm.
But so this was my signature model. There was a few of these out there in the wild, but this was cool because it literally was me and my gun, and the color scheme was based off of a prime engram off of a game called Destiny.
Okay.
So I had that color scheme with it. And then, so that was one pro model. And then last year, I had the opportunity from Ed Portman to be a dark sponsored athlete. And so this was my signature dark DSR that
Nice.
he did for me. So this went with the Florida motif. So old school Vegas, Florida is kind of how I called it.
Hmm.
Palm trees, that sunset aspect, everything like that. Those are definitely like 3 of my main that, I love a lot. I guess maybe the only one that got away from me, 2. I got 2. I had an original Dynasty SFT. It was great. And then I wasn't familiar with the guns. I blew it out, all this other stuff. And then I just traded away for another DM3 because matrices are workhorses. You could beat them into the
Hmm.
ground, chuck them, and still pick them up, and they're going to work. At that point in time, those guns were so fragile, you throw it and break it half. And I used to be a gun chucker, so that it didn't really work out well for me. But then when we were Team Image, we were sponsored by Bob Long, and we had a 2K2 with a non-LCD clamshell, and
Hmm.
I had it rigged out with JR3 Check It products, and that thing was a machine gun. So I think those are probably my only two that, I'm not dying to have back, and there's no way I'm ever going to get those back. But those were two awesome guns. I'm fortunate to have those that I have now. I built a really great relationship with the LX, playing with the All Americans last year. My main gun I'm using right now was my All Americans Idol.
Okay.
And then it's actually this one right here covered in stickers, because that's how we do as a jester. You got to cover your gun in stickers. So we've got the nice little jester head there on the foregrip. So just to make it a little mean, little stuff over and about. We've got our Disobey, our Conquer logos you'll constantly see with us as well. So yeah, just really kind of embrace that kind of skate style, throwing stickers all over my guns at that point.
Nice.
Yeah. I've shot a lot of guns, but the ones I've held on to are the ones I care the most about, for sure.
Nice. Well, got some really nice ones.
I do. I again, like I truly have been fortunate. I've had a few Project TM40s, so shout out to Ryan, Brandon, and Archie. Those guns shot great. I also have to give a shout out to Cesar Pizzo. He's my gun tech from Ultra Silk. All my guns that I have, I send to him to do. You're not really going to ever see me shoot a stock gun by any means. Just to give it a shameless plug, like one thing that he does is with his boom treatment, he basically he heats up the metal, which opens up the pores of the metal, and injects it with a resin. When the metal cools, it basically fills all those pores. So he does your barrels, your bolt guides, things like that. I go over the top and I ask him to do my entire gun. And that's something that I took from my Uncle Rich. He had this cocker that he completely Tefloned out back in the day. And I remember, because no one else had really done something like that. And he was like, well, I'm going over the top. And that's how I live my life, is a little bit over the top. So I just kind of went in the same breath and did that.
Nice.
And, my guns don't they don't shoot like other people's guns. And that's because of the work that he does. I'm just, thankful for him. So he takes all these awesome guns and he makes them shoot even better than what they do.
Well, that image gun is like straight out of the childhood. Like I definitely have magazines with that in it.
Yep. And then, and even just more old school thing, like here's an old company, AK Lamp or AK Lamp, however different people want to talk about it. They were the ones that made the best rags. And then when they came out with these SCM rags, those were even better. Yeah. the old, like, it's got the old Evolve bolt kit in this as well. It's actually a mishmash of Evolve and then as what they would call the image bolt kit. So still have the gold bolt inside and everything like that. I recently actually had a Ironman Matrix where they cut out the side tube and everything like that.
Yeah, when Dye bought it.
Yep, exactly. And then you would see, I think one of the most common people that was using that one was Thomas Taylor in some of the first Excessive videos.
Yeah.
There's one of our pit guys, his name's Josh, and he's a huge Matrix guy. And it was just sitting collecting dust. And I knew he had expressed that he really wanted it. And obviously, just gave it to him for a steal. It meant more to him than it did to me. So why not? Just bring some joy to people.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, we've cruised past an hour actually. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, no, I know. It's gone by very fast because I know we were talking about a bunch. That's why I was like, what do you want to talk about? Because I know it's a little bit of an onion for sure.
Yeah. Why don't you shout out all the boys and the sponsors, and we'll put a bow on it for now, and we'll check back in with you later in the season.
Sounds great to me. So let's see if I can do this well off the top of my head. So all of our current sponsors for NJJ, we want to definitely give a shout out to DLX, JT, that whole conglomerate, Empire, GI Sports, also Deviate, Jamin, he's the man as well, PB Retro with John, also a great dude, one of the guys that always makes things happen. Well, truly our trifectas, Timmy, Jake, those three, can't give them enough thanks. A1 Cav is one of our sponsors, his headbands, all of his fun stuff. Whenever you see our awesome stickers, tank wraps, anything like that, t-shirts, just like this one, Vine Creations, Alex Bisbo, that's his company. When you see the Conquer logo, Kobe is the guy right here. That is an affiliation within the program. So we have a clothing company called Conquer Clothing. So the phonetic spelling of Conquer with a C and a Q is this, Conquer. So way back in the day, obviously everyone had a logo. So obviously King Kong. So we went with the gorilla and Kobe, because back in the day when you were in high school and everyone was shooting baskets and going, Kobe,
Kobe.
Kobe. That's it. That's exactly why when you hear say Kobe 1, Kobe 2, that's why. So I believe that covers all of those guys. Again, I gave that personal shout out to Cesar Pizzo. We know he helps me keep up and going. Gant from Tactics, I always am rocking his HB Hero. And then Carbon, I've been using the loaders forever. Obviously getting ready to play 5-man with them. Gear is just undeniable. Travis over at Infamous and affiliated with Powerhouse, I've been using their regs and tanks forever and a day. Those things are just workhorses, and I am super hard on my gear, so their stuff is always able to take a beating. Pep Escotillo from Top Rank, he's been giving me clothes and everything like that to beat up for years. I mean, truly in the end, first I wouldn't be here without my mom and my dad, obviously, but they were definitely big supporters and combatants with me along the way. Like, you want to do this, you want to do this. Like, I watched my dad, do the 9 to 5 and live this crazy life, and just I wanted to be that. Definitely have to give a shout out to the wife, Megan. She has let me, go on this crazy adventure for way too many years now, and just thankful to drag her along the way. For 10-man, I have to, Will, one of the biggest dudes with GZ, just such a great man and a great friend. And he helped me, be where I'm at now. Last year, the All-Americans were just such great friends. This thankful list is very long. I apologize.
No, go for it, man.
I've been fortunate to be around a lot of people, obviously, rest in peace, Tim, but, got to be a part of some of the first ICPL, well, really Pittsburgh. That was the first, true 10-man coming back, and to be a part of that when it was going on and be where it is now is just a very humble opportunity. But, Frank, Spesh, Adam, Nick, Ryan, Aaron, Bryce, Riley, all the main core dudes that we've had through the All-Americans. One of my great friends, Weeze, I can't thank him enough. And then in the current iteration, being with Team Smoke, these guys are awesome. It's just a bunch of hard-nosed, blue-collar dudes that I'm just so thankful that they let me be, part of this team. Paul, Will, Danny. Danny's been the voice of, paintball forever. And,
Yeah.
there's no the voice of paintball. When you hear some guy like just, yeah, let's go, like that is Danny, like, let's run down, let's go shoot him. Like, it's great. Yeah. If I left anyone out, I'm so sorry. But yeah, that's just it. Obviously Todd, Tammy Adamson with Paintball for Purpose, Josh, Phil, Allie, all those guys have been, it's just such a welcoming group of people. So, and also, I guess say thankful to Rocky Cagnoni, Chris Lasoya. Those guys are great sounding boards, and people have helped me over the past 2 years to help me be where I'm at now. So super thankful for everyone I've had in my corner, because I wouldn't be here without them, truly.
Nice. Well, thank you, man, for coming on the show and sharing your history and just talking paintball with me. Really appreciate you.
Yeah, I really appreciate you too. And I guess if I do one more shameless plug, if I may, the business I started is T2F Coaching. You can find me on all the handles. It's literally T2F Coaching. The pun with the words is T2F is teach to fish. So I went
Okay.
with the whole religion, Julian the Whale. It's because as he says, you give a man a fish, he eats for a day, teach a man to fish, and he can eat for a lifetime. Uh, it's not, shoving religion down your throat. At least I'm not that guy, but it's just, we're here to talk and do the thing. So if anyone wants to talk, I'm here. It's free. Come talk to me.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. And we got to hang out for a little bit. Everyone else, we'll see you next time on the Planet Paintball Podcast.
Have a great
Thanks for tuning in to the Planet Paintball Podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Whether you're out there grinding in the divisional pits or chasing dreams on the pro stage, remember, it's all about the passion, the hustle, and the love for the sport. Until next time, keep grinding, keep growing, and we'll see you back here on the Planet Paintball Podcast